to this day, I get asked a lot about the Capitol. And it's funny because it takes me a minute to kind of answer the question and get the question going, just because the Capitol is so many things tied together. And for me, if I had to answer that question, what is the Capitol? It's just the big picture of what we do. So we learned what the Capitol event was before the games even started. We had our athlete dinner that they do every year before the games kicks off. You get to sit down with your fellow athletes, meet everyone, converse as normal human beings before you turn into the monsters on the competition field. So when they first announced the Capitol event, it was at that dinner. And my initial reaction to it was I was super excited. It was everything you want to be at the CrossFit Games, being that it's so unique and can't be replicated, and it's got unique elements into it. And then not to mention you're going to be running around the city of Madison. That hasn't really been done in that kind of way. So I was super excited from an athlete standpoint. It had elements in there where I knew I was going to be tested, like the strength side of being able to move the pig, but also the run itself was something I had been working on for such a long time and building my aerobic capacity that I was ready to show off on that 3-mile run. So my initial reaction was super excited to crush the event and tackle the event.
We knew it was going to be a challenge and it was going to be a grind and a dogfight, but we were definitely ready, and I think she was mentally ready. She was excited for that workout just to like test herself and see where she was and challenge herself and on the biggest stage. So that, I would say, going into it, the workout, we were both excited for the opportunity to go and compete and be at the games and be on that stage, to experience something you can only experience at the CrossFit Games.
Right from the get-go out the games, I did have a little bit of hiccup on event 1. I had dismounted the bike very unathletically and rolled an ankle. So I was kind of dealing with that through the games, and that didn't limit me on any of the events. It was just kind of there, and I had an extra task to deal with. So leading up to the Capitol, I remember having that guy taped up and ready to rock and roll, just because I knew we'd be running on different terrains, through the grass, through the gravel and everything. Running out to the event, super excited. Matt and I were practicing how to move the pig. We had an idea of what it would feel like, being that we touched like a flip sled the day before, but you don't know what that equipment feels like until you actually walk up to it and get your hands on it. So when it started out with the 20 pig flips, I was like, shoot, I hope I can even get one of these guys down. It was fun in the moment, but also not fun in the moment because some girls were just flinging that thing up and over. Then eventually we got our 20 pig flips done, and it was on to the 3-mile run.
I love that this is on the open road, that involving the fans, the community of Madison, so that they can see what this is all about.
Now I was dealing with that little bit of a rolled ankle that I had taped up before, and I remember getting probably not even like a half a mile through the run, and I knew that ankle was taped up way too tight, and I just started feeling really, really crampy and really uncomfortable through just like the beginning portions of the run, and it all kind of just started tumbling downhill from there. When it comes to something as challenging as the games, there's gonna be other factors that play into it. You can't expect to go into an event and be like, oh, this is gonna be just like the gym and this is gonna feel exactly how I want it to. So it got a little bit frustrating that was happening along the way, and I immediately had to shift into a different gear of, okay, we're gonna have to get through this event a little bit more on the uncomfortable side of like more not what you want to deal with, being that I had that little injury going on and was cramping, and then we get through the run. We start picking up objects along the way. The farmer's carry, got through that, not that big of a deal, just kind of trudging along there. And then finally we get to the Husafell.
And we have used sandbag before the CrossFit Games, but not like this.
I was like, okay, I just got to pick up this thing and get to the finish line. Just grunt work. I'm good at that. Well, I went to pick it up the first time, and I had never, it's an odd object. It's a little bit different than a sandbag, just being the shape that it is. And that thing didn't move.
Rebecca Fuselier continuing to just try to find a way to get herself across the finish line. There is no time cap here.
I was like, what if I can't get this thing to the finish line? You have to finish the event. And then if, for me, in my eyes, I'm like, if I can't finish this event, do I belong here?
Seeing her fight through the end of that workout and knowing what I know about Rebecca and her spirit, I knew, like, when she says she'll die before she quits, she will die before she quits. And as someone who wants to take care of her and make sure she doesn't hurt herself, like, there's some concern in that to make sure she's physically okay and all that sort of stuff.
Little by little, I would just create these mental checkpoints along the way. Now there's fans, there's barricades, and as soon as I get that thing off the ground, pick it up, start hustling my feet for as long as they'd take me before the Husafell would like slip out of my grip. And I remember I did take one, at least in my head. It seemed like an extra to get it higher onto my shoulder. I go, that guy ain't going up there. But there was one point that I got up to like maybe 2 flights of stairs, and I felt my body just like tank. Another really funny part of the story is this is long after the games were over, and I told Matt, I was like starting to remember like little pieces of the story, and I go, I think someone came up to me and asked me if I was if I was okay to finish the event. And he goes, yeah, that was Boz. I go, oh, that's embarrassing. So I was like completely out of it. But I remember them asking me like, hey, in the most like respectful way, he's like, hey, are you gonna be able to finish this? And I was like, of course, yeah. I'm never quit on a workout. So why would I quit on this one? It's just gonna take me a minute to get through. We get to the final set of stairs, put it down, and I turn around and see all the CrossFit community start getting closer and closer. And in that moment, like the photos and the videos don't even do it justice. They feel like they're like right in front of me, like I can literally reach out and touch people.
And here comes the crowd behind Rebecca Fuselier. This is fantastic.
Obviously, the iconic images of the crowd following her up the steps is very emotional. You know, trying not to cry back there in front of everybody because you're so. I immediately recognized everyone watching it in the moment. You recognize the moment that it is. Just to see her grit and her determination and who she is really like play out on screen, that made me so freaking proud. Like probably the proudest moment as a coach I've ever had, just because it was just amazing. I mean, it was like a beautiful expression of being a competitor and never quitting. And I think like it truly showed who Rebecca Fuselier is.
So get up, get that last few steps up the stairs, and then cross the finish line. And then from there, for me, the walk of shame began. And this is, I really want people to hear this part of the story, because you see all the cheers, you see all the excitement of crossing the finish line. But I was down. I knew if anything, I got last place, or I was like, maybe there was a second to last place in there. But no, it was last place. Everyone's probably been in that situation before of finishing last on a workout. It doesn't feel good, but your people around you giving you your high fives, telling you good job, great effort, you get stronger because of it. But in the moment of the games, and being around all of these athletes that you respect and look up to, and and in front of the fans that you want to prove that you belong there. Being a rookie, I mean, it's even more pressure. Like, you want to prove that you belong there. It was like the longest walk back to the bus. The longest walk back to the bus. I was hurting, I was limping, cramping, all of the above, but the biggest shot was to my ego. And the fan, I remember some folks, some of the team, the medical team, and just our athlete director that were around us helped me, walked me back to the bus. And there was one moment where we were behind like some of the ambulances or the buses that had equipment or something back there. And I was like, guys, I gotta sit down for a second. I gotta get my shoes off. It was like the moment where there were no fans. I was like kind of hiding myself. I was like, I don't want to show any of this, but I had to sit down, take off my shoes, take off the tape that had my foot like numb at that point. And then we kept walking, and the fans were still there, like watching us walk to the bus. And I kept hearing, good job, you did it, awesome work, you got this, Rebecca, keep going. And I was just like, why? That wasn't good. That wasn't good. That wasn't me. That wasn't what I wanted to do. So I didn't realize when you guys look at the competitor aspect of it, it's like everything that you don't want. But it's okay, because nowadays I look at that story or that moment, and what's most important to me is that I hold on to that moment as a competitor. I hold on to that moment and be able to look years later, when we're years down the road, look back at that and be like, I could totally crush that Rebecca. That Rebecca could sling that Husafell up on her shoulder and run with that thing. So that's gonna be the cool parts of it. And to this day, like, I'm so much stronger. I can do that, but I know years down the road, it's gonna be even cooler.
Immediately in the coach mode after that moment, just waiting for them to get back. What is the damage control we have to do psychologically? What is the damage control we have to do emotionally and physically to get ready for the next event? Because knowing her as a competitor too, she would not recognize the significance of it in the moment, and actually that took her months to really like come to terms with that. But also that she would be disappointed in a way, just because it's not fun to finish last when you're racing and you're a competitor. So she downplays it, but I think it's pretty amazing considering how long she spent on that event, how much energy she had to spend because she couldn't get the Husafell to her shoulder, and she had to carry it belly carry it the whole time, that she was able to recover and finish as well as she did in the next event.
So we made it to the bus. Eventually made it to the bus, and we drove back to the Coliseum, back to the athlete area. And at this point, I'm so flustered, don't even know what's going on. All I know is that I gotta somehow get recovered and ready for the next event that was coming up rather quick that day. But this is the only time I get super, super emotional, is when I walk up or I see Matt after an event, because we're literally in it together. He does just as much work as I do, and we're always obviously communicating back and forth, but all throughout the year, the programming, the planning, the competition, gaming, and like the strategies that we build going in there, it's all part of it. So the hardest moment that I had stepping off the bus was probably walking up to Matt, because I just felt like I let him down. I felt like I let us down. And I just remember saying, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Like, just being super emotional, bawling my eyes out.
Went up to her and she immediately just started crying and apologizing to me, saying she was so sorry because she felt like she let herself down or let me down in some ways. Just the standard she holds herself to. And obviously I 100% put a stop to that and reassured her, like, you have no reason to be apologizing. Like, that was amazing.
It's so unique, and something I'll never forget is not understanding what that moment was, and then it's slowly coming to the realization of how important that was. And like I said, I'm just happy to be a part of it. And when it comes to Matt, I don't know what he's gonna say on here, but he has his own perspective because he got to watch it from just back at the Coliseum. And all I remember him doing was just getting us ready for the next event. He still, after all of that happened, he was still focused on, it was just an event. Let's go on to the next one. Let's get recovered. And not to mention, we smashed the next event, which is always a happy ending to that chapter and that story of just, it was just an event. And it was a special one that we're going to keep close to our heart, but we got to move on to the next one and show a lot of good strength in the next event. So that was cool.
Coaching an athlete like Rebecca is a pleasure, like, because they're just the way they approach every day, the way they approach training, and the effort that they put into it. You never have to ask them for effort, and that's what I felt. That a lot of that event just represented her and who she is. So.
Fun story to share is one of my favorite athletes. She's definitely turned into one of my favorite athletes because she's so genuine and encouraging. Carolyn Prouveau came up to me after the event. I was like sprawled on a mat somewhere, just trying to recover and everything. And she goes, hands down, one of the coolest moments, and I wish I had a picture like that of me competing. And I go, I said something like, I'll take the points that come with your place though. Or like, in that moment I was still being competitor, and I was like, I'll take the points that come with your place, not the last place points and everything. But even just something like that, like even just the little moments that make it's more than just a competition. The whole moment was just so much more than the games, and I'll forever keep that close to my heart. So I didn't realize how big that moment was and what it meant to everyone until I got shared a few clips just from people's phones. I was like, this is crazy. People are just sending me clips that they got from being there, and they're saying like, thank you for that effort and everything. And that was really cool. But also watching the recap of Miles to Madison, they did such a good job of putting that together, and really want to note and appreciate all the hard work that went in for that moment on the sidelines that you can see in that video of just the judges, the volunteers that were there organizing the event, obviously Boz programming it and making sure it ran smoothly. And sorry, I almost messed it up being so far behind the pack, just saying. But it was such the synchronicity of that moment cannot be recreated. And the first person that told me that was actually my dad, because he was so proud that he was there, that my mom was there, like chasing me up the stairs, like to the finish line. I wish you could talk to my mom. If you guys ever see my mom, like talk to my mom about this moment. She was like pushing and shoving through people like, that's my daughter, I gotta get to the, and I remember hearing that too, and it's just, everything just came together so magically in that moment. And it took me a long time to realize that, to shift my brain and my competitor perspective to just a CrossFit athlete in this awesome community, celebrating what we can do and what we can accomplish together.